Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I am your host, music producer, Chick with Beats, and I've got a special episode for you today, Perspectives of the Sound Selectors, and it features insights from DJs that I've had conversations with. This is part one, so there's definitely more on the way. But first up, I'm featuring conversations that I've had with E-House, DJ Milk D, and King Samson as a part of the Hip Hop Shop on Europe Radio. And so I'm excited to be bringing this episode to you. And before I officially get started, I gotta give a shout out to my home station, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And now a quick pause for the cause, and then we'll dive right in. Keep it locked. Hey, I'm a Chick with Beats, multi-genre music producer and strategist to indie artists and labels. Visit chickwithbeats.com for resources for artists and instrumentals in various genres available for songs, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, themes, TV, film, commercials, and more. Once again, that's chickwithbeats.com. That's ACHICKWITBEATZ.com. Let's make something happen. I have in the virtual building with me today DJ E-House. It's been a while. You've been a guest on the old radio show Music Marvels, but since this is your first time here on Instrumental Intel, I'd like for you to kind of let the people know a little bit about who is DJ E-House and how you got started with DJing.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. My name's E-House. I've been doing this DJ thing for a long time, since 1985. That was my first paying gig, and so just been DJing and kind of all over the board. You know, I've done the whole college scene, doing a lot of the frats and stuff, and back in the late 80s, early 90s, actually mid 90s on. Then I ran a nightclub for about 4 or 5 years in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's called Club Soda. And we had a night on Tuesdays, which we call Club 340. And that went on. Actually, I ran it for like 5 years, and then it continued on for a couple of years after I moved away. But that was kind of a big adventure and learning curve. And I moved to Phoenix, Arizona in 1998. And it took me about a year or so to find the scene here in Phoenix. But did find that house music scene that I love the most, but the hip hop scene here is also phenomenal. We have, I would argue, some of the best hip hop DJs in the world are actually here, because we have guys here that regularly tour, overseas, Europe, Japan, all of that, and they're right here based out of Phoenix. So that's kind of what I've been doing here off and on in between my actual career, my job, and I work for a major airline, but still DJing, still love it. It's just one of those things, once it gets under your skin, the music, you can't help it. So that's a little about me.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And, I should have said before we even began, thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to come and talk with us. But you mentioned your first paying gig was in 1985. What did that feel like to you, instead of somebody just like, can you do this, but to actually pay you for it?
Yeah, it was funny because it was a house party first, but I remember hauling all of my equipment, and this was actually I did not have a car at the time, so I literally was walking, because it was in the same complex that I lived in. And so it was another friend's house, but his mom wanted a party, and I was like, I'll do it. And she paid me. It wasn't a lot of money. It was about $100. Even in 1985, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
It got me a lot of records. But it was fun. It was one of those things. It was the time I felt legit, because I wasn't just doing someone a favor.
So that had to feel pretty good. And like you said, just not be doing a favor. I mean, there's so many, I guess, producers, DJs, even artists are offered that just, for the exposure thing. But, to get valued that early, that had to feel really good.
Yeah, it was. It was actually neat, because back then, obviously, there was no internet. Your only true exposure was doing the party, being on the flyer, and that, and I, had some mentors that I actually got to play with, but they, I was playing early. I was getting that basic knowledge. But once I got paid, and it helped, like I said, about getting records and things like that, being able to buy more equipment. But it did help with my confidence of, being okay with asking, for this is how much I'm charging. I came up, and I think in a very fortunate time where there wasn't a lot of promoters. It was literally, you were going straight to the people who were throwing the party, that fraternity or whatever, or that organization having the party. And so there was no promoter at a nightclub hiring you as the middleman for the nightclub owners. I literally was hired when I worked at the club directly with the owners of the nightclub. I, in effect, became the promoter. So yeah, it's a lot different than it is now. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Okay, and House Party is one of my favorite movies. And when you were talking about how you didn't have a car and you had to foot it over there, before you said that it was the same complex, I just had this image of Bilal getting in there and trying to get all the records in and all that stuff. Do you remember what some of the albums were that you copped once you got paid for that? Is there anything that kind of sticks out?
God. Well, early records for me, man, it's so much. I always say that I've forgotten about more music than people probably will ever know. But even then, because the first paying gig was in '85, but I had been playing music and buying records since early '80s. So I was, big on, Planet Rock, anything out of Detroit techno scene, anything that came on Metroplex Records. So that was Derek May, Ron Atkins, Kevin Saunderson, those guys. Of course, I was early on the scene with the Chicago house thing. And that was the unique thing about growing up where we both are from, Kalamazoo, is we're located halfway in between Detroit and Chicago. So we got this dual experience of the Detroit techno scene and the Chicago house scene. Yeah. So it was that. But then it was also the R&B stuff. Earth, Wind and Fire, all of that, Frankie Beverly and Maze, all those things too. Because some of the parties I would do were for all intents and purposes, adults. Mm-hmm. So at the time, I'm in my teens and I'm doing a party for, 25-year-olds and up too. And so that was, a pretty cool thing. So yeah.
So you had an old soul back in the day, man, huh?
Oh, yeah. I grew up in that generation of every Saturday, mom's making you do, your chores, and on Saturdays doing the chores and you're watching Soul Train. And growing up, unfortunately, in Kalamazoo, we didn't have black radio. Right. So we relied on a lot of tapes from our family and friends who would either send them to us, or when we would go visit family in Chicago or Detroit, I'm recording everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got wide exposure there. And I again love that experience. But then also was fortunate to have older aunts and uncles who are all in the music business somewhere, somehow. I've got a Uncle James that's a good singer. I got a Uncle Maurice who's a brilliant keyboardist and drummer. I have Aunt Janice who is also a really good singer. And so they were all into that music scene too. And so that helped with me getting that kind of broader horizon. And then it didn't hurt that my mom was into jazz at the time. My stepdad was a jazz saxophonist. So he was in a band, always in a band of some sort going on back then. So yeah, it was a great experience. And that's why I think I still have the taste in music that I have today is so broad. It's not just one thing. I do prefer house music when I'm DJing, but I can play hip hop, I can play R&B, I can do all those things. It all translates.
All right, so it's just in you, from blood and just ingrained in you. That's what's up. So you mentioned
I was that kid growing up. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was that kid growing up that, for Christmas, instead of asking for toys, I was asking for records. So that'll show you how much, and that was from a young kid.
Okay.
For sure.
That's what's up. So yeah, you mentioned earlier about, DJing at Club Soda, and unfortunately, when it was popping and I was hearing all these good things about it, I was too young to get in. But I just need to let you know, I heard so many good stories. I kept thinking, man, I can't wait. And then all of a sudden, yeah, they're like, it ain't like it used to be. And I'm like, well, now, now I can finally go and I can't get, But I heard so many good things, legendary status in Kalamazoo for sure.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a goal of mine to make it a truly a fun place, a safe place for people to come hang out on a Tuesday night. When the owner of the club proposed the whole thing, and I was like, he goes, "What night do you want?" And I go, "You know what? Just give me a Tuesday. I don't need a weekend night because I don't want to compete against people going, out of town, going to Grand Rapids, going to Detroit, going to Chicago. Give me a Tuesday where it's more likely that people are staying, they're here in town and they're going to come check us out." And that was what we always try to give them, was a good show every week. I always brought in, guest DJs, because that's another thing. I've never been afraid of putting somebody else on. That's what you're supposed to do. Just like how DJs are supposed to break music, as me being basically kind of, like I said, being the promoter, I'm supposed to break the DJs, let them get a chance too as well, and pay them. Again, not doing it for clout. I paid everybody. That's one thing you would never hear about Eric, is that he didn't pay. Oh, I always paid. I took care of all my friends, and so that's what I did. But yeah, it was always a good experience. Every now and then it would get a little wild, but it was nothing that was super crazy. So I just, again, wanted to have a good time, have people be safe and enjoy themselves.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Man, you had mentioned like how we're right in between Detroit and Chicago, and how we had like the best of both those scenes. And I remember my grandfather was in Chicago, and so sometimes I would go up there summers, like this had to be like early 90s, and they had like that one hip hop station for a couple years. I don't remember like what happened to it. It ended up getting shut down, but man, I was recording so much stuff because, like you said, we just didn't really have it here. But I do that. I remember I got my first DJ Funk tape from Forest City Mall, like one of them little bootleg kiosks, and
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just something about that flavor.
Totally. Yeah. It was, because it was raw. It was original. It was, and you knew literally was some cats your age most likely making this music, and they were doing it at home. They weren't in some big multi-million-dollar studio. Right. They had the equipment, and they were making it happen. And so that's what was cool about it. And same thing. Years of growing up, back in Chicago, the stations back in the day were WGCI and WBMX. And I mean, oh my God, they were classic stations. And, during the day, they played R&B and some hip hop. But at night, once it was like 9, 10 o'clock, when it was time to go out on the weekends, especially, that house music would start, and it wouldn't stop till 3 and 4 in the morning. So yeah, it was definitely a great experience for sure.
Yeah. And I got my first, I think it was a CD I still have like the liner notes from it. I don't know who got my CD, but if I ever find out, they're going to be in trouble. But I had that Soul Tech that had like Chuck and Jit and all that on there. I went through so much to find it, and finally found it at Flipside Records. I was so happy. But I wore that thing.
You got it on CDs. I had the vinyl.
Oh, see, that's what's up.
Stuff, I had all of that on vinyl. All of that.
That's what's
and
up.
I remember having to buy multiple copies of it, because I hate to say it wasn't pressed on the best vinyl, and we would literally wear the grooves out on the records. So you had to buy 3 and 4 copies of certain 12 inches, because especially the ones that were pressed locally, like I said, in Detroit from Buy Right Records and all of that. And then in Chicago, there was so many different record stores and record places that just pressed their own stuff. And the vinyl was not always the highest quality, because usually a lot of it was recycled. And but yeah, that brings back memories.
Yeah. Okay. So, with those memories and, you being a veteran, how do you balance playing what the crowd wants to hear and still introducing them to new stuff?
It's a tightrope for sure. But your job as a DJ is exactly that. It's not just to play what you want. You, as a DJ, really should be, like I said, breaking the new music. So yes, you're going to have those hits that people want to hear, and that's fine. Everything falls within a certain BPM range, whether it be hip hop or house, and that there's some new stuff that you need to start getting people's ears used to, and you just kind of splice it, in the mix, and watch the crowd and see how they react. And if they don't initially react to something, you pull it back, come back to another potential hit or something like that. But it is a balance, and you've got to read the dance floor. You really need to pay attention. You might have a couple people walk off when you blend the new song in, but if you start to see a large number of people kind of like, I don't think I'm feeling it. Okay, and let's move on and quick mix it if you need to out into to the next song that they do now, just to kind of bring them back around. I can't tell you the number of times over the years. Like I remember I'm trying to think of one of the songs. Oh heck, Brighter Days. I remember the first time playing Brighter Days, and the dance floor looked at me like I was crazy, and they didn't like it. And I kind of played it in prime time because that's where I had originally heard it, was in prime time, and I was like, oh, too prime time for them. They don't know the song. So one of the things I did was the next week I played it again, but I played it earlier in the night where people hadn't really started dancing, but then they got to hear the whole song and they kind of like, oh, okay, I like that. And then I did that a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden people are like, hey, what's that Brighter Day song? And all of a sudden I could push it towards that prime time part of the night. And so that's kind of how you do it. It's just you talk to your crowd, you look, that communication of watching how they react on the dance floor, but also just the communication of when they ask you to hear it. I want to hear this. Okay, let's see what I can do for you. So it's a balance, but you have to be responsive to the request too, because I've been in places where DJs just play a pre-programmed set without really paying attention to the dance floor. And 90% of the time that doesn't work. Unless you're some super big name DJ where everybody's there just to see the DJ. But otherwise, if you're there to dance and have a good time, you really don't care about who the DJ is. You really care about what they're playing. So that's how I always looked at it.
Wow, man, that makes a lot of sense. I've been hearing a lot more DJs saying that they, already decided what they're going to play. And, they kind of brag about having it pre-planned. I mean, I do know a few that are still willing to mix some stuff up, depending on how the crowd goes. But yeah, just from kind of listening and stuff, a lot aren't really open to doing that. So I think that's really cool that even with all your experience, how to navigate that.
Oh, yeah, you got to be flexible. Yeah, you got to be flexible because, like I said, that pre-planned set, that crowd may not be vibing at that moment with what you think they should be vibing. And so you still gotta win them over. At the end of the day, you gotta win them over with the songs you're playing and with your choices. So you have to be flexible. I do some amount of preparation when I go to DJ. I do have in mind what things I want to play and where I think it might work, but I don't pre-plan an entire set at all for me. And that's just me. A lot of my DJ friends do, but then a lot of them are like me too, that will just they're going with the flow of what the vibe is that night. Because I've had where I'm literally have planned out, I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna drop this on them, and yeah, none of that worked. And I was like, okay, let's get back to what this is working here. So let's see it and just see what they respond to. Because again, they're there to hear the music. Ultimately, I'm not a headliner type DJ. I'm the guy that's trying to play the good music for you and have a good time. So I have to be flexible. Now, if I'm a headliner DJ, that's a little different. There's also some technical reasons why a lot of people pre-plan their sets, because now there's even DJs, they've been doing this the last few years, that actually pre-record their sets. And they actually are, when they're up there DJing, they're literally just playing pre-recorded on the thumb drive the entire set, and just kind of switching between the two CDJs. But they do it because they've got a light guy, they've got a video guy that's running the video screens, all of that. And if it's all preset, those lights all kind of are really more to what's being played. Wow. And that makes for a different experience. But then when you're there to see a big name DJ like that, you're there for more of a concert experience as opposed to just there to dance. Okay. So that's why that happens. Because when I first saw a DJ with a pre-recorded set, I was very critical of it. And once the DJ, because afterwards I had a conversation with them and they asked, why are you doing that? There's no soul in that. You're not reading the floor. Well, here's why, because I'm putting on this entire show. It's not just the music, it's the light, it's the graphics, it's everything. And I go, oh, okay. So does it work for me? No, that's not me. But yeah, there's people that do that. But like I said, I try to be prepared as best as possible, but I'm also prepared for any scenario.
Okay. Back to what you were saying about breaking records. For any independent artists that might be listening, like, how do you determine what songs you might go ahead and kind of try to introduce within a mix? So yeah, if there's an independent artist, I was like, you know what, I got this one track, whether you're playing hip hop, house, whatever the case may be, what would be the criteria for you to consider it?
So for me, it's kind of twofold. This one is, do I like it first off? And then there's times where I listen to it because I'm one of those people that, I remember when SoundCloud first launched, and I was there because I was like, oh, we can kind of go directly to the artist and find things. I'm a big fan of Bandcamp. That's another platform. And so I go out and I just listen. Honestly, I listen. And then I'm listening to it at home. I'll listen to the song in my car. Does it have the right sound? Does it, does it bump? Is it working? But also I listen, then I'll play it for friends. What do you think about this? And see what their reactions are to the song. And then, kind of go that route. And then I'll test songs out again, sometimes early in the night, I'll play something to see, if I at least get heads bobbing, kind of, okay, that works. But also then too, I'm not out there as much as I was, because I kind of just haven't been, and I'm just kind of getting back into playing again. But, when I was always in a record pool of some sort, we take that feedback as well from when you get music. Hey, listen to this. And that's really the first, thing is do I like the song? Is it something I would listen to on a normal basis? Now, granted, that doesn't always apply. There's been tracks where I was like, that can't be a hit, and it becomes a hit. And I'm like, okay, I've got to play this. But, it is ultimately, at the end of the day, is something I like. And then if I hear patrons at the club and stuff who are there to dance, they ask you about something you've never heard of them, then I'll go and listen to it. I'll go back and I'll, hey, I don't have it tonight, but let me look into it and see if I can find something, and then if I, check it out and I go, oh man, this is a hot track. They were on to something. So I listen to my people too. So that's the other thing is, if somebody asks me about, I'd heard of them. I've got kind of a good network of people who do that too, who also just send me stuff and say, hey, check this out. This is something I heard. You might like it. So it's kind of, broad range. So I would always tell any artist starting out, put yourself out there. Put yourself on Bandcamp, Mixcloud, any of those platforms. Bandcamp preferably because at least you can make some money off of it. I'm always for someone getting paid for their product and for their their artistry and talent. So I'm still buying music right to this day. So yeah, be able to put yourself out there, be able to market yourself. And because you got to get people's attention, and you also got to get the DJ's attention as well. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my hints and advice.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So yeah, you said you're just now kind of getting back out there. I know recently you did a show with Mr. Harris. Could you tell us about some of the highlights from that? How did it feel kind of getting back out there playing together again?
It was a long night. It was fun. It was just me and Mr. Harris, and it was from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. Wow. And that's a long night for us going back and forth. But it was a good night. We had a really good turnout. And it was, I was tired at the end of it, but I was very happy with the turnout we had and the feedback we got. So much so that actually myself, Mr. Harris, and then our other partner, DJ Kaz, we're going to relaunch our Real Radio PHX website.com and start back up in January of doing our, we used to do a weekly show on, we kind of laugh at like we were ahead of the curve because we were streaming back in 2010, 2011. Wow. On a platform called Ustream. And so we're like, oh, now we got Twitch. So we're going to start that back up. But yeah, it was a great night. We had some repeat customers because we had played the last gig before that we, Sherman, Mr. Harris and I played previous, was about a year previous for our birthday. And we had a lot of a year ago that came back and we were like, whoa, we were here the last time you played and we saw that you were playing again. We're like, That was wild. I don't think I've ever, followed back up with somebody a year later on a gig. So that was impressive for us too. And we really liked that. We were like, oh, okay. And it gave us some time to say, hey, maybe we should relaunch this Real Radio PHX thing. And so that's what we're looking at doing. But yeah, it was a good time overall. And I'm doing some other little small gigs here and there coming up here in the Phoenix area. My buddy has a nightclub. It's called Solstice, and it's downtown Phoenix. So I'm going to be playing there in the coming weeks as well. So just, again, getting back out there. Like I said, it's one of those things where it never leaves you. Once you're out there playing and DJing and even performing, whatever you are as an artist, you know that it never leaves you. So, I might have stepped away and took a break. It's always there. So I'm excited for that.
I love that. So, okay, since time's kind of winding down and you got this stuff coming up, where should people be connecting with you to make sure that they can see what you've got going on? I know I do my part to make sure I can share what I can, but yeah, where should they check you out?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm on Instagram, DJ E House. I'm on Mixcloud, again, DJ E House. So that's the two platforms really I'm on at this moment. We haven't relaunched the web yet for realradiophx.com just yet. We're still working on that. We still own the domain, luckily. We just gotta find a new web host. So yeah, but Mixcloud and Instagram are the easiest and the best ways to reach me, and I'm there.
Okay, well, I hope that I get to have you back on the show sometime before then, so that way we can kind of remind people that you got that coming up.
Oh, for sure. Maybe we can get all three of us together.
I would love
Myself,
that.
Mr. Harris, and like I said, and DJ Kaz. We can kind of get in there and talk with you and kind of hype it, what's coming up for us in the future. Because like I said, we're shooting for that January launch. So that's kind of the plan. So we're working behind the scenes right now to get all of our technical stuff together, equipment wise and all of that. So yeah, for sure. I'll reach out to you and let you know what's going on.
Great. Because you guys absolutely have access to my platform when you need it. So yep, just keep me informed. And so, before we go ahead and close out, are there any, lasting thoughts you might want to leave for any aspiring DJs or something, that don't quite have as much juice behind them as you do, but they're working on building it?
Well, that's the thing. I think I even said this in our last time we spoke was don't be afraid to put in the work. Don't expect to come out the gate, playing a big room. You're going to start out in some smaller places, put in that work, put in that, I call it the 10,000 hours. Get your craft right. I've seen a lot of kids, their bedrooms DJing, and they weren't ready to come out their bedroom. And they just need to come out prepared, even when you're playing a small venue. So that's the thing, is practice. If you're an artist, make sure you're doing your rehearsing. And I say rehearse a lot. Even, as a DJ, I don't do it as much as I used to, but when I was working constantly DJing, I was even rehearsing DJing just to make sure my skills were honed. So I was doing that at least 1 to 2 hours a week in between gigs, after work, whatever. I was just playing some songs, seeing what works, things like that. So, for DJs, make sure you're practicing, for if you're an artist, be rehearsing. Because, if you talk to some of these big rock stars and R&B artists that play guitar, that play the drums, that they'll tell you they rehearse still. Even though they're accomplished and at the top of their game, they rehearse. So just be prepared, because whenever you get that phone call, you need to be prepared to go out there and kill it, because that's what's going to get you noticed, is that you came out swinging and oh man, that was dope. That DJ was off the chain, because they came out prepared, and they actually, you should never know that this is your first gig out in the bedroom. It should sound like you've been doing this for a long time. So that would be my advice.
I have both DJ Milk D and King Samson of the Hip Hop Shop on Yerp Radio in the virtual building. How y'all feeling?
Feeling good. Thank you for having us.
Excellent. I'm really glad that you could come. DJ Milk D, you've actually got rare status. You're the first returning guest to Instrumental Intel, because the original interview then rooted sounds, and now the hip hop shop. So yeah, I'd love to hear about how you guys came up with it and kind of the idea and passion behind it.
Well, I'm gonna let King Samson start with that answer. He is kind of the fire starter for the hip hop shop. So take it away, King Samson.
Well, basically, Milk had his radio station, and I've been trying to get on it for a while, and it wasn't a good time. And basically, he finally came up to me and says, "Oh, if you want to do something, you could do something for an hour." And I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so I could do a full hour, and how am I going to fill this time? I'm not a talker, so I ought to DJ and not say a word for a full hour. I said, for a radio station, that's not really good. So I kicked the idea to him. I said, why don't we do a hip hop show together? Just me and you. And he's like, how's that going to work? And I'm like, we'll work it out. We'll figure it out. Like, it's not a big deal. It's like, we love doing this, so let's do it together, and maybe we could come up with something. And, he liked the idea. I bounced some ideas off of him, and he bounced ideas off of me, and then we came to the conclusion of the show. And we didn't know what to call it, and we ended up calling it the Hip Hop Shop. And he liked it, and we ran with it ever since.
Okay, well, it's really dope. I appreciate being a guest on it. I had a great time. And so, I actually caught the first episode before the one that I was a guest on. And I'm like, man, they're really on to something. Like, just the way that it sounded, the way that it flowed was so smooth. I love the way you guys interact with each other. So yeah, how did you guys actually come to knowing each other and kind of getting that groove that you guys got going?
Go ahead, Mel, tell them.
Well, Chickwood Beats and all the listeners out there, me and King Samson are big kids. And when I say big kids at heart, but also we were into video games. And there was this one particular video game, shout out to PlayStation, especially SOCOM. You need to bring that back. Speaking of that, but there was a game called SOCOM, which is like Call of Duty. So SOCOM kind of kicked Call of Duty off. And it's a third-person shooting game, and the game consists of teamwork. And we bumped into each other online because even to this day, 24 years now, actually, I've known Samson, but I've never met him. Samson lives in Toronto, and of course, I'm in Richmond, Virginia. But on this video game, it brought us together through another mutual friend. And I'm going to shout him out, Al Lowe, our brother, aka Shaolin Soldier.
Shaolin Soldier, for real.
Yes, that is my brother from another mother as well. And this particular individual, who is family to both of us, allowed us to come into this group that we called a clan, and it was called Soldiers Unit. So all of us had these names, and we had tags to ID us as a team or a clan. And we were rocking. We'll meet up every Tuesday, Thursday, or Sundays, or whatever the case may be.
It was Sundays and Wednesdays.
Sundays and Wednesdays, that's right. And it was probably 20 of us at Chickwood Beats from all around the world. And
shout out to XXI.
Oh yeah, we got to give Grassy Knoll and Ski Mask.
Amen.
Ski Mask. Yep. Rainman. You got to give Rain.
Flip Soldier.
Flip. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Yep.
Red Soldier.
Red Light. Yep.
There's a bunch of us.
Yeah. I was called No Limit Soldier. My son was Little Limit Soldier. I even brought my son in there.
That's adorable.
We had a toy soldier, a wooden soldier, Sofrito soldier. It was so many soldiers, but there was one soldier. One soldier we got to shout out, and that is Method Man. And his name on there
99 Soldier
was 99 Soldier. And Shaolin, aka Allo, CEO of Trigonon Productions, shout out to his label, brought us into the room with Meth. And he never said in the beginning who he was, but that raspy voice, we were like, is that Meth? So to speed up the story, it was really him. And we've met him multiple times. Like, I've been on stage with him, not performing, but in the background. You know, he'd throw water on me and, you know, and give me love and all that stuff. But me and Samson have never met. So one day we're going to do a reunion, get all the soldiers together. Met Redman and Street Life. I mean, it's crazy. So we've met, but we haven't met. And it's going to happen. Technology today is just amazing, as we all know. So anyway, that's the story.
That's incredible. Well, since you guys brought it up, with the whole gaming world, you know, with that and music, it intersects so much. Are there any, I guess, games that you played that kind of stick out in your mind, like where the soundtracks or like some of the songs that they played, just you kind of attach it to that feeling?
I mean, Grand Theft Auto always had
the best music.
Yeah, I mean, that hip hop, I mean, it would be Cypress Hill, and I mean, who cares about the profanity? You know, they were dropping it.
They had different stations, so you could, if you, depending on your feel, your mood.
Yep.
So I always had it on the hip hop R&B station, but you know, there was the rock station. There was a whole bunch of different stations, and they had some good tracks. Like a lot of the hip hop that they had, I enjoyed, and I kind of looked out and I kept that in my catalogs of listening to. Like Sean P was on that, and I'm like, yo, I'm a Sean P fan forever. So you know, I had that on repeat.
Yeah, this pen game was phenomenal. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I asked that question because, you know, especially with you guys having a hip hop shop, made me think about, you remember when Def Jam had the Violator?
What
was the Vendetta? Like, that was one of the favorites.
Yep.
I got my butt kicked every time. It was actually my husband's game, but, you know, I still tried it. But every time. So, okay, you know, you guys have been bringing on people to the show, and, you know, I know you got another guest coming up for the next one that airs. So if you could talk a little bit about how you find who you're going to pick for the next interviews. And so
go ahead, Samson.
I don't pick no one. You pick them all. You'll call me up. Honestly, okay. Honestly, the first couple it's because we're new and everything like that. We're reaching out to people who we know, people in the industry that we know and that be interesting, that will have some interesting stories and whatnot. Basically, we're open to interview anyone, but right now, because we're just starting and we're just trying to get our feet wet, we're reaching out to people who we know, and hopefully they would tell their friends, and maybe they would introduce us to new people, and we just keep on moving in that length.
Okay, that makes sense. I had to ask the question just because the majority of the listeners of Instrumental Intel are artists or creatives in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, it's always good to have exposure. But yeah, I get what you mean about, you know, just reaching out to people that you know is usually the safest bet. Because I've had situations on other shows before where, you know, maybe the PR person reached out and then, you know, you have the conversation. It's just like, whoa, where did you come from? So yeah, it's important to kind of be able to do that vetting, if you will.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing to a chick with beats because, like, for example, you, I do know you, but you're also a dope artist and producer. So the guests that we've had so far, I've known, but they're also dope. So I feel like it has really been easy. So like Samson said, you know, we reached out to people we know first, but I'm hoping the listeners from the hip hop shop, or even like you said on your show, will inquire, because I feel like we're onto something. Even you said that.
Absolutely.
And when you do what you love, let me see, when you do what you love, it never feels like work. And Samson and I are having a blast. And just like what you do on your show, you have fun, you know, and I feel like this is something Samson and I could keep doing for a while.
Yeah, because you're definitely filling a void. There are hip hop shows and podcasts, but they're not doing what you guys are doing. So that's why I say it, and I've had to say it publicly as well, you know, just to let people know, like, yeah, you guys are onto something special. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So I know I'm trying to not get mixed up on where we've had these conversations since we've connected multiple times. But who were some of your musical influences? I can tell by, you know, listening to the show, but for those who may not be familiar, who are some of your favorites for both of you?
Go ahead, Samson, you first.
My favorite influence is EPMD.
Ooh.
Helter Skelter. I'm a big Sean P fan. There's certain hip hop that just jives to me. So I don't want to go down the list of names and everything, but foremost it's EPMD, Helter Skelter. That's where it is. When I was younger, it was Big Daddy Kane. You know, I was into the dancing, scoop and scrap and whatnot and stuff like that. So anything with the upbeat, I'm really into. I'm a 90s fanatic. That is where I reside most of the time.
I love that. I might have to borrow that. Because I tell people all the time, it's still the 90s in my car most of the time. But yeah, that's where you reside. I feel you on that.
Well, I'm an 80s guy. Of course, I'm a lot older than you guys. And
you're 1 year. Stop it.
Oh, man. I feel like I'm 10. But I mean, I feel great. But Run DMC is my favorite all-time hip-hop group. To this day, I still wear Adidas shell toes. I really just clung to them, and I still play their music today. Old school Africa Bambaataa, you know, Soul Sonic Force back in the day was monumental as well. I was a break dancer, learning how to DJ. You know, playing stuff like It's Time and FRESH, all that old school stuff really made me fall in love with hip hop. 90s, it has to be A Tribe Called Quest. I loved like De La Soul. I liked, you know, the that whole movement. What is that movement? With De La. Thank you. It was like I was getting a mind body. The Native Tongue movement. I was so into that. You know, I'm thinking De La Soul, Saturdays, Me, Myself, and I. You know, potholes in my life. I mean, I can go on and on. But
I was way too young to like Buddy the way I did. I'm gonna go ahead and admit that.
Oh, that is funny. But yes, My Buddy. Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my goodness, yes. That's a classic. And then as time went on, of course, you know, Woo. Oh my gosh, man, Woo just came out of nowhere. This big, large group of guys, man. I was just like, yes. The West Coast, you know, Dre, Snoop, Mac 10, Cube. Oh my gosh, Mac Dre, the Bay Area. Yeah, so yeah. Always hip hop first, even though I'm a house head too, but hip hop is first.
Yes. Yeah, and I wish that we had more of those blends that we used to get back in the day. You know, like Jungle Brothers, you know, I'll House You, and like,
I'm gonna do you, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, you're getting me turned up.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, you know, both of you guys listed some really prominent people who ushered in styles that came, you know, after them. And I feel like that's so important. So yeah, with that being said, you both got a love for the classic hip hop. Kind of where do you envision things going? Because lately there have been a lot of people that have returned. They're putting out new singles, new albums. Do you think that we'll kind of get that shift back to where we still kind of have some of those vibes? I mean, of course, it's not going to make us feel like how we felt back then, but I kind of feel like there might be a renaissance where everything's kind of re-emerging again. What do you think about that?
If it happens, it happens. Everything's on a wheel, right? Everything comes back. Will it come back how it was? Never again.
Right.
We lived that. The kids want to push it to their own things. That's their business. I could respect them if they do it, but is it going to make the money? I don't know. How things are going, everything is cookie cutter. You're gonna, they want the violence, they want the flashy girls, they want all that. They think that's hip hop, and that's only hip hop. It wasn't, because if the same way that people say this is hip hop, I could show you hip hop where guys and girls were together and they were fully clothed and having fun.
Yeah.
We just talk about Buddy. That whole video with like Latifah, everyone was they had clothes on and they were just having fun. They were talking about sexual stuff, but they were clothed. They look at De La Soul with Saturday. You're telling me that girls were popping in their hoochie and carrying on, and guys were no, it was guys and girls, and they were roller skating and having fun.
Right.
So
facts. Yeah.
Will it come back? I don't think it left us. We got older and we have to dig harder for it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I actually listened to Little Brother, and I thought hip hop was dead until I heard Little Brother. And I found out they had a whole bunch of albums that I never heard of. And the reason why is because I got busier. I was working. I was trying to get things together. I had no time to sit down and dissect music, but my friend put me onto something, and that showed me that it's always going to be there, but unfortunately you have to dig for it. It's like the old time. Remember back in the days in the 80s, hip hop wasn't prevalent like this. You had to dig for it, and we did that to get it, and we loved it more. So basically you have to get back to the basics, and unfortunately you're gonna have to dig on your computer and find these artists that want to do it.
Right.
Well, Samson, I'm gonna jump in right where you just said. That's why I feel like your radio is so different, because you can get that type of music on your radio. I'm gonna do my best to keep the old school hip hop alive. You don't hear what you hear on your radio. Like I there's so many internet radio stations out there. Okay, kudos to all of them. But I feel like your radio is different, because I'm going to play that stuff you just don't hear anymore. And now, I'm going to start doing the late night editions where I'm going to have some underground, meaning when I say underground, let me rephrase that. It's going to be not censored. I'm going to play the originals. There will be an underground to help independent artists, but I'm going to be playing the original NWA 2 Live Crew at a certain hour. But Samson, you are spot on what you said. I do believe hip hop will always live with us old schoolers. You got LL, who's still around putting out music. Big ups to LL. Of course, Meth and Red, those guys, man, are still putting stuff out.
Yeah.
Muddy Water too.
Oh man, I heard some of his bars on YouTube. He still got it.
He really does.
So, anywho, not to continue on that topic, but I'm going to do my best to keep hip hop rocking on your radio. Old school hip hop, real hip hop.
Yes. And so, yeah. Again, I just gotta shout y'all out on the blends, listening to the hip hop shop. How you break in the music and everything just flows so smooth. It kind of reminds me of back in the day. Well, back in my day, when I was kind of young, like listening to college radio, we had a couple DJs that just used to keep it real like that. And so you guys kind of got that nostalgic feel, like new nostalgia, if you will. So like I kind of love that feeling listening. So yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Love the Samson. He's doing a good job on blending, putting the show together. I give him a lot of props.
That's what's up.
we're trying trial and error. I have to give the props to the guys before me. Like, I'm from Toronto. We listen to 88.1. We listen to the underground. There's always a hip hop. Back when I was younger, there was always a hip hop show when it was like 12 to 2 or something. It was something stupid like that. And I listened to there was a DJ X.
Mhm.
Then someone else took over the show after that, and the Real Freaks. There was I'm forgetting someone that started it off, and they put it on the show, and that's when we used to listen to hip hop. They would actually travel to New York, get music, and come back and play it for us. Because at one point in time, if a song came out in New York, it took at least a full month before it hit Toronto. That would be crazy. But then you have DJs that would actually go to New York and dig for those records and bring it back, and they play it for us, and then we would be, oh, what's this? And then you find new artists and stuff. I used to tape the shows and stuff like that. That's the feel that I'm trying to bring with our show. And I want you to hear music that you haven't heard before. And some is new, but most of it is old. Some old stuff that you haven't heard ever, and maybe you'll find something to listen to. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just try to blend it in, and we have good people on talking some good subjects about hip hop, and that's all it is.
Yeah, well, yeah, I love it. I dig it. A lot of times, if I'm listening to radio, well, typically like through certain times, if I'm working on stuff, it's a little bit harder for me to listen to radio, just because I got my headphones on, I'm mixing or making something. But yeah, I got to make sure that I make time. Tuesdays at 7 because I know what I want to be listening to.
And you were there. So again, I know I thanked you on IG, but thank you for tapping in. We really appreciate that. And also your show. So all the listeners out there, if you do get interviewed on the Hip Hop Shop, if you go to europradio.com, that is YU 3 R's and a P radio.com, and go to more at the top of our homepage, you will see the links to the previous shows. So Chick with Beats is on there. Check out her interview. It is fire.
Yeah, she was. In fact, you were our first guest.
I feel so honored. Seriously.
Yeah.
You're a veteran in our world.
Yeah.
It was an honor to be a guest on the show that I already enjoyed. So, I just want to make sure that I can shine a light to, any people that are in my audience that weren't in yours, that they know to check out what you guys are doing. Because most people that know me know how much I love hip hop. So yeah, I want them to find you and just recognize what you guys are doing. Loving the blends, loving the vibe. Even the next guest that you had on was incredible. I'm excited to hear who's coming up next. But yeah, you guys got some dope finds.
We got some. Man, hey, listeners. Oh yes, please check out the previous ones. Chick with Beats, definitely. But stay tuned. We have some special ones coming too. Well, all of them been special, but it's just like we're blessed because they're falling in line. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
What's great about our guests so far is like we're having good conversations, and it's not made up. It's like we're just sitting down and we're just talking, and we're just talking about hip hop, and to hear about each person's different engagement in hip hop. Loved. It's interesting because everyone has a different story about how they fell in love with hip hop. So it's always new, it's always fresh. And then when you start talking about old things and you get excited and you're talking, it's like sometimes we lose time and the interview's done before it started, you know what I mean? Because we're just like, Like, I'm kind of excited about our next one, chosen one.
Woo!
He just
From
went
LA.
in. He just went in, and I can't wait for that one to come over.
Awesome! I can't wait to listen. But yeah, I get what you mean about like how that time flows when you're having conversations. I was trying not to interrupt you when you mentioned 2 Live Crew. Like, some of those, it's like, oh yeah. So yeah, it's kind of nice to be reminded of, good vibes, good music, and kind of to walk that memory lane specifically for hip hop. So
We're
yeah,
trying to. Another thing too is like what we talk about. We're trying to get better at the music around it. Is so if we're talking about a certain artist, we're trying to bring that artist in our mix. So it correlates to what we're talking about. So you understand what we're talking about, because if you just come in and you don't know the artist and we're talking about a certain thing, then you're going to actually hear the music and you have a chance to say, oh, okay, I like it. So now you're able to go on YouTube and figure it out.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Facts.
Because, I love how that ties into what you were saying earlier about people having to dig. You guys are kind of doing the work for them. So they don't have to.
Just a little.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, my time frame growing up in that, I was kind of like in between. So some of the stuff was brought from other places. Like if, I had cousins or somebody traveled and then brought stuff back. But then I was also part of the era where it was tons of good stuff in rotation in mainstream. So of course, there was always trash, sprinkled in sometimes. But, for the most part, I was part of the generation that got a little spoon fed. So once I had to dig for it again, I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I don't have time to do this. But yeah, it's always been worth it. So yeah, I really respect what you guys are doing. Because like I say, you're just making it easier for people.
We appreciate it. Yeah. I was going to say, when I was a little dude and finding out what hip hop was, I was blown away. And I have to shout out my big brother, Double D, who first exposed me to hip hop and DJing with the Fisher curved arm turntable and, of course, the vinyl. I would go over to Philadelphia. I lived in South Jersey, but I was only like 10 minutes from Philly, and I would go over there to the record shop and get vinyl, like 12-inch singles, $2.99. Then I started getting into the break dancing, like I mentioned earlier. It's just, man, that era. I'm so glad I was born when I was born. I mean, it's just real hip hop.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah.
I don't know, it's exciting to listen and talk about it. But yeah, we were just talking about how fast time goes and kind of winding down here. I know, right? But if you could maybe just talk a little bit about where people can find you. You already gave the website, but just in case somebody's coming in a little late, let them know where they can follow you and tune into the Hip Hop Shop.
Where can they find you, King Samson?
You can find me at Europe Radio. That's where you can find me.
My brother. Yeah.
I'm on Instagram. I go King Samson Official. If you could link me. I'm not a hard guy to talk to or whatever. So if you want to link there, that's fine. I post a couple things. Other than that, EuropeRadio.com.
There you go. Yeah, and on Instagram, it's for me, it's D for Daryl, J _ milk _ the letter D for Daryl. But follow the Europe Radio one as well. That's YU 3 R's and a P _ radio on Instagram. And both of those sites, we have a link in the bio that will take you straight to Europe Radio. And for the listeners, when you do go to Europe Radio, you have to hit listen live. And once you hit listen live, it will start playing. But some advice, if you don't click the link, you can Google us and find us. But try to save it to your home screen on your phone, because then it's easy access. You don't have to just type in EuropeRadio.com and all that. If you save it, you'll have it on your phone. As far as the show, make sure you tap in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Hip Hop Shop. The website has the previous episodes, like I mentioned. And stay tuned. I mean, We got a lot of great things happening on EuropeRadio.com.
All right, and that's a wrap for this episode of Instrumental Intel. I've been your host, music producer Chick with Beats, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Once again, as always, I appreciate the guests for coming on and sharing their insights. And I'd like to thank my home station, Grander Radio, out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Make sure you come back next week. I got more goodness lined up for you. So, till next time, you know where to find me. Tune in, tell a friend, and I'll see you then. Peace.